everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. This week I am going to be finishing up my Kirsten Meet dress cosplay. And yes, that's meet as in M-E-E-T, not M-E-A-T, as in the dress that Kirsten first comes in or came in when she was available to buy from American Girl. So when I left off last week, which if you have not seen the first two videos on this project, I will link them down below in the description so you can check them out. But when we left off, we were working on the bodice, and really that's almost the only thing that is left to finish. I do have a little bit of work left on the apron as well, but frankly, that's it. So that's why we are definitely going to finish this week. Now, I have actually already noticed one problem, issue, difference, etc. that I made with my bodice versus her bodice that I had not noticed before. Whoops. And that is that if you actually look at Kirsten's meet dress, I have been talking this whole time about this waistband that goes across that I assumed went around the entire waist. It doesn't. I just never looked at the back to see that actually there's no waistband. It goes all the way down. So it is just built into the front, and it is a separate piece. Like, it's not overlaid over the bodice. It's like bodice piece, waistband piece, back pieces. And yeah, I cut mine so that my waistband would go all the way around because frankly, that makes more sense. I hate it when you get dresses, especially like from fast fashion or whatever, where they've only embellished the front part of the dress. It's like one of my biggest pet peeves in clothing. And so yeah, I definitely wouldn't have wanted to do that probably anyway with this cosplay, but here we are, we're gonna have the waistband all the way around. So that is one of the next things that needs to happen at this point. We have the bodice right here, and this bodice has to get sewn to the waistband underneath. So that's what I'm gonna do first, but I also am going to mock up the sleeves for this bodice. So our sleeves, when we look at them here, they are pretty nice and full. They are gathered up at the top, and then they are also gathered down into the wrist with a little cuff that, what's interesting here is that the cuff is actually blue with a white bit that's kind of folded over, and it's only stitched in place in the sides. This part of the cuff can actually unfold and we see the full blue, which is really weird in my opinion. Like, the white is actually a separate kind of piece in there. I don't know that I'm going to do it that way because to me that is very strange and it actually adds extra bulk that is unnecessary. So I'm probably just going to do a white cuff. Same with the collar. The collar is actually made pretty similarly, and again, I don't know if I'm going to do it that way either, but we have a blue standing collar and then the white that kind of comes from the inside. This time it's together at least, but it kind of comes from the inside and folds over with a little sort of Peter Pan look. I don't know with the collar yet which way I'm going to do it, but the cuff, I'm just going to do white cuffs because it makes more sense. I'm also probably not going to have the cuff open in any way at the wrist. Generally, I like to make my cuffs so that my hand barely fits through them and they're just a little bit wide on my wrist because I don't tend to like things very tight to my wrists anyway. So that's my plan. So with these sleeves, one other thing I should mention is that it is not as wide at the bottom as it is at the top. If we look actually at the fabric print, we can tell that it does taper in at the bottom. So that's what I'm going to do. But I think I am still going to start with the sleeve pattern from Simplicity 4551 because that is just like a wide kind of rectangular sleeve that's meant to be gathered in at the top and at the cuff, but I'm going to taper it down to the cuff. So let's get started. This is the shape of my sleeve mock-up. If you can see the pink lines there, we will see if this works. This is 10.5 inches across this way. These are the half size measurements, 13.5 inches this way, 30 inches long over here for like the long outer part of the sleeve, 25 inches long for the inner part of the sleeve. Let's cut it out, sew it up, and see if that works. All right, so I have the sleeve mock-up on here with the bodice just like pinned in the back, and it's close, but it is not quite. I think you can probably tell what I'm talking about. It is A, a little bit too long, and B, just a little too full down by the wrist. I do think some of that is going to be alleviated by taking off some of the length, because I think lengthwise, we're probably looking at maybe even up to 2 inches too long. definitely like 1.5 inches. So I think probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo the gathering. Right now I just have it gathered down here with gathering stitches. I'm going to undo that gathering, cut off 1.5 inches, and I'm also going to taper it down a little bit more. I also wonder just where the seam is sitting on my arm. It feels kind of a little too far shifted around this way. Like I almost want the seam to be that way. Now that said, I don't feel like I'm having any problem with how it's laying up top because it is a gathered sleeve, and gathered sleeves are a lot more flexible and that sort of thing. So I might have to examine that, but it does just seem like the seam is a little bit far back though. Looking at hers, see if we can see, I now finally have Kirsten dressed up in her outfit. And actually her seam is really far back too, and it does match up with her armpit, which is where I've put this one. So I think I'll leave the placement of that as is, and we will just make this shorter and a little bit more tapered by the time it gets down to the wrist. Well, I realized that the sleeve only seemed too long on this side and not on this side, and as you can see, this is why. So I'm actually just going to basically cut this almost straight across. I think it's going to dip down maybe 1/4 inch longer over here, because I'm going to cut off the 1.5 inches from over here, but I'm going to leave this side just the length as it was. I have shortened the sleeve, and I've also made it a little bit narrower, basically tapering in from about here down, and I did take out actually about over, I don't know, I'd say 2.5 inches total by the time it gets to the wrist as far as like width around. But I'm wondering if I actually need to start that taper higher and make it even more at the wrist, because it still just feels a little bit big. So I'm kind of thinking I am going to go ahead and cut it out in the calico, but I think I'm going to go ahead and cut it out 1/2 inch shorter and also like 1/2 inch less around, and then hopefully that will be what I need. But yeah, I mean, the upper part is good. I like the width, honestly, until it gets to about the elbow, and that's when I think maybe it's a little bit wide going the rest of the way down, but it's not far off. So let's go ahead, cut it out, and put it together as the calico and see what it looks like. And just in case you were curious, this is what the final sleeve shape looks like. I think I do actually want to give this cuff construction a try, minus the Velcro and opening, of course, but basically what we have going on here is a little fold of the blue and a little fold of the white that's basically 2 times as long as the blue, and then that gets folded over the blue. But you can see on the inside that when they're incorporated into the seam allowance over here, they're actually like the same. The blue is on one side, the white is on the other. So I'm hoping that that will work and that it won't look really garbage from the inside. I guess we'll kind of have to see how that looks. But basically, I did my math, because you know that my math is so important to me. Now, scaling this up straight away would actually only be 1 inch wide. That seemed too small. I'm going to do 1 1/4. It just seemed better. So this is my math for a 1 1/4 inch wide cuff, and my hand is about 9 1/4 inches around like this. So that's what I have to be able to get it through, which means 10 1/4 inches long total. And then the blue is going to be 3.5 inches wide, including seam allowance, and 6 inches wide, including seam allowance for the white. These are all including seam allowance. So those are the dimensions for these cuff pieces. I'm not going to interface these or anything because they seem thick enough already, because really by the time we have this folded over, we're looking at like 6 layers there. So I'm a little worried that it's going to be way too thick, but we're going to give it a try. So the first step with these is going to be joining each one of them end to end with right sides together, and then turning them right sides out, pressing and folding them so that they are half the width, all of these, so that the seam allowances are on the inside of the fold. So now that both of the cuff pieces are folded in half, I can serge them together at the bottom. I'm hoping that I can get this all with the serger, because I do not have a free arm on my serger, so this might be a challenge, but that's going to get serged together and then attached to the bottom of the cuff. So to attach the cuff, you're going to do right sides together so that the right side blue of the cuff goes against the right side of the sleeve, and you're going to sew all the way around that so that the white is kind of on the outside. Then that all gets flipped to the inside like so, and then this little cuff part gets folded over to the outside like that, so that you just barely see the tiniest bit of the blue right along the edge, and that is how we get it looking like Kirsten's cuff. The collar of this dress is made kind of similarly to the cuffs, but a little bit different. So this is, I'm pretty sure, a straight across band. So that is what I'm going to attempt as well, even though I feel like often when I make collars, they're just slightly curved. And we've got a straight across band here. There's two of them, basically a front and then an inside. And then in between them, sandwiched in between, we have the white part of the collar, which is again a straight band, but this time we have a notch that is in the center that's just sewn in to create that sort of Peter Pan collar look. And that again then just folds over. So this time we actually have a little bit less layers. There's only 4 by the time it's all folded over. So I think I'm going to actually use some fusible interfacing on this. I'm not sure if I'm going to do 1 layer or 2, but I'm going to put at least 1 layer into the patterned part of the collar. I don't think I'm going to need any additional here. This is a much stiffer fabric. This is like a prepared for dyeing Kona cotton, because they didn't have just white Kona cotton at my Joann's. So it's kind of a little stiff, even though I have pre-washed this, of course. So I'm going to start by doing the scallop shape here and basically sewing along the short ends all along one end, creating the scallop, and then back up the other short end, because this is not going to get incorporated into the zipper. My zipper's just not long enough, so I have to start it at the base of the neck. And then once that is done and turned right side out, clipped corners, etc., that's going to get sandwiched in between these pieces here. And then the same sort of thing's kind of going to happen, where it's going to get connected sides, and then the long side, and then the short sides again. And that should make that sort of sandwiching of the collar, and then basically it will get serged, and we'll just see the serging on the inside. Like that is my plan, because that's how the doll one is made. So here is the collar piece now turned right sides out, and now we are going to sandwich this between these 2 layers here. And so we're just going to put it in like that and put the other one on top. And then without catching this, we are going to stitch around the edges there, and then obviously catch it in the long side, and don't catch it on this side either, because this is already turned in with its seam allowance. Also, I just feel you may be interested in seeing on my extremely messy table how cute this adorable little kitten is. Well, she was sleeping a second ago, but clearly she heard me talking about her. Hey, kitten. So here we go. I have turned it out flat from being sandwiched in the little like calico collar part. And now this is just going to get pressed down like that. And we'll have our little collar. This part down here is going to get serged, and then it's going to get attached to the neckline, and hopefully that will all work. And I'll be securing it with a little hook at the top of the zipper, possibly 2 hooks. We'll see if I need 2, but the zipper will go up to here, and then there will be a hook up here. So now that this collar is attached, I must say that I am actually really concerned over just how tall and also tight it feels on my neck. It's like, it's not tight. Like, it is not actually choking me, but I think because it is tall, it feels like it's choking me. So that's not the best. The thing is that although I increased the scale for the cuffs, I didn't increase the scale for the collar. The collar on the doll dress is 3/8 inches. Using the height scale that I have been doing for everything else, that makes a 1.5 inch collar, which is what I made. However, my neck is really short, and so I thought that by just keeping it the same scale that would be okay. But looking at it here, I feel like for one thing, it actually winds up making my neck look really small and my body look really large, and I'm not exactly sure how that's a thing or how to avoid something like that from happening, but it is also just not particularly comfortable, and this is something that I'm going to be wearing all day at Comic-Con. So unfortunately, I think the collar saga here is not over. And I am definitely feeling inclined to scrap the idea of a standing collar with the Peter Pan front and literally just make like a Peter Pan collar that could go on the existing edge, so that it would come right up to the base of my neck but would not actually stand up, despite the fact that Kirsten's collar does stand up. I just don't think it looks very good on me. Taking away Kirsten's bonnet here, I mean, you can see it is a standing collar. Like it is right. I just feel like it looks and feels wrong. So we're gonna have to make some adjustments here. So all I've done right here is that I folded down the top of the collar by about 1/2 inch, and it honestly, I think it looks and feels so much better. So I think I'm gonna go back in, take it apart, unfortunately undo the serging, which is annoying, and just like shorten and shrink down the collar from within, because basically what I have to do is I have to shrink it down from when I added in the white part. So I have to kind of scrunch that sandwich down a little, shortening both edges, hello, and also then probably cutting off that excess so that there's not extra bulk in there. But I do think that that looks a lot better. It still gets the point across. It's still a standing collar too, but it doesn't look nor feel so much like it is suffocating me, which is very important. So I'm gonna pet this needy little cat here, and then I'm going to go back in and undo all of the work that I just did. It's great. Love it. Oh my gosh, that is so much better. I just decreased it by about 1/2 inch, and I think it totally still looks right, but it doesn't look like it is suffocating me, because I feel like that was the thing. My head and everything looked so small because it visibly looked like it was suffocating me. This is going to be so much more comfortable. I think that that was definitely the right answer, and yet I didn't have to go all the way the route of like doing a fully different collar than what she has. So yeah, I think we have a winner. Still looks like her collar. I think that looks great, and that means that I can finally go and connect this to the skirt, because it's still not connected to the skirt. And once I do that, I can put the zipper in, and I can finally do the waistband of the apron, because I can see if the apron's gonna be too long. I know that was a really long time ago that we last talked about that. That was like 2 videos ago, but we haven't solved that problem yet because we haven't attached the bodice yet. So let's go attach that bodice, get the zipper in, and that way we actually have a full dress. Won't that be amazing, Dora? She says yes. The skirt is now attached to the bodice, and I wasn't sure if I should try it on first before putting the zipper on or not, but I'm glad that I did, because although I think the front looks fantastic, like the length, the poofiness, I'm liking everything about the front right now, honestly. The back, on the other hand, is poofing in the way that means that it's actually too long. And it's that the upper part of the back bodice is a little bit too long before it gets to the waistband. So I just need to take it out a tiny, tiny bit just to shorten it. We're talking like 1/2 inch, I think, if that, honestly. I'm gonna have to look closer in the mirror, but it's just a tiny bit that needs to get shortened, which is good because that means that the zipper will go lower into the skirt, because frankly, I measured it kind of before putting the collar on even, and it looks like that with the 22-inch zipper, which is the longest that you can get at Joann's, that it would wind up going like 3 inches into my skirt, which is like not the most useful. Generally speaking, I would say you want a skirt opening to be about 8 inches long. So having it only be 3 inches, yeah, not the greatest. So shortening it is really, that's freaking fantastic. So yeah, otherwise though, I think everything looks really good. I am a little bit wondering, I mean, this won't be affected by the zipper, but I am just slightly wondering, is it too much poof in the center? Should it be redistributed? Hers is mostly in the center too, so I think it's probably okay, but I might stare at that in the mirror a little bit more as well. And yeah, I'm gonna go shorten that back. I'm so glad that I fixed the collar, you guys. It's so much better. There is definitely still a little bit of bagginess back there, but I think it's much improved now that I took that up that 1/2 inch in the center back. And I did decide that I actually do like the distribution here. I know it looks weird because it's all like kind of centered, but frankly, that's how they did things in the 1850s. A lot of times you would have super, super gathered here right in the center. So yeah, I think that is good. Time to put the zipper in. And I know you can't quite see the hem. There we go. If I get far enough back, you can. But I did decide to throw the apron on too while I have it pinned on before I put the zipper in. And this apron is definitely too long. So I think that just kind of turning the hem up once more, I don't know if I will cut out the excess or not, but I think turning it up once more hopefully will do it. But I'm going to have to double check against Kirsten's apron and just see. The zipper is in. though I can't do it with one hand. And I have even added the hooks and eyes at the collar. You can see I did one here and then one also at the base. So that means that the dress is done, and all we have to do now is just to finish the apron. So I did take a look at the apron length like I showed you, and I thought that maybe that one fold was going to work. It's not. It's still too long, so I need to do 2 folds. So what I've already done is I have actually cut off where the hem was before, and I picked out the other line of stitching because otherwise that fabric would still be attached to where I cut it off because it was sewn to the fabric. And I've just folded it up twice again. I'm going to stitch that with a straight line, and then I'm going to cut out basically the backing pieces of my waistband slash ties and put them right sides together with these long ties here and turn those right sides out and stitch it down, and my apron will be done. So that is great. I also have one other thing to show you, which actually just arrived today. And that is my AliExpress socks. I got these tan and brown socks. Ignore the threads all over my floor. They look pretty good. And the amazing thing is that they actually fit. These were $1 AliExpress socks. Hi Lion, do you like my socks? And I think that they are going to be pretty perfect for this costume. I do have a pair that are coming from Amazon that are white and gray that I thought maybe I could dye with tan. So I might still try those, but I think these will definitely work for now. Oh, and I also took my Kirsten wig and I braided her hair into some pigtail loops. I don't know that these are actually secure enough to stay. Basically, they've got a hair tie on the bottom and then I just tied it up with some Petersham ribbon, but I feel like they're slipping. So I may have to redo that, but I'm gonna have to try it on first to see if that will even work. But yeah, that is the wig. The apron is done. Look at these long ties, but they look really nice. And now the question is if I risk going outside to take pictures of everything now when it is currently not raining, but who knows because it is raining so much and the weather reports are never true here. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and put everything on and go out and take some pictures, and hopefully it's not gonna rain. So I will see you in just a moment. All right, I think we're ready to go take some pictures. I really hope these braids stay because they are definitely wanting to come out, but let's go see if we can find a log cabin. But overall, I am so, so happy with this cosplay. I think that it looks really, really good. The one thing that I'm thinking that I might want to change before I wear it again, or at least before I wear it for Comic-Con, is the apron, actually. And that is because although it looks fine in here, I feel like when I was looking at the still pictures of the cosplay, like as I was taking them, that the apron reads a lot more orange than the bonnet or than her apron does. So I'm kind of thinking about just throwing the apron in a little bit of like pink or red dye and seeing if that takes a little bit of the orange away. I think it's because her stripes are so close together and mine are really pretty spread out, and it is a slightly more brick red. So I think that that is probably, yeah, well, no, it's the same color red. It's literally just how the stripes are spread out. And I think that that's probably why it's reading just a little bit on the orange side. I also need to find a better way to secure these because I just felt like they were slipping out the entire time. I think that they're still holding, oh no, this one's got tails everywhere. So I'll definitely, especially for Comic-Con, have to figure out how to get those to secure a little bit better. Maybe just more like clear rubber bands or something like that, but it needs just a little zhuzhing. But overall, I am so, so happy with this one. This is definitely one of my favorite American Girl cosplays now that I've ever done, and you know I've done a whole bunch of them. So I'm curious, what do you think about this cosplay? Where do you think it ranks in all of the American Girl cosplays that I've done? If you haven't seen any of the others, I will link a playlist to all of my American Girl cosplays down below in the description and also right up here, so you can go check those out. But anyway, if you like this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube at least once a week with sewing vlogs like this out on Tuesdays and sometimes additional content out on Saturdays. But I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have a link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below, or you can send me a super thanks or join my YouTube channel memberships right here on YouTube below the video. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my Edwardian level patrons, Jean, Janelle, and Dan. Thank you all so, so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing! You want to say bye too? Happy sewing! Bye, kitten.